Thank you for being here today. My name is Matlin. This is Todd, Brandon, Sheridan, and James, and we will be presenting to you strategic options to increase the brand awareness and sales of Rejuvenating Spa Incorporated. Just to review a quick agenda this afternoon, we'll give an overview of Rejuvenating Spa Incorporated, and then we will address the strategic options that the company is facing, those being the consolidation option between RSI and Lavish Spas, a franchise option or opportunity, the ability to partner with FFL Fitness Centers, and the possibility to acquire Pure Substance Incorporated. But once we review those strategic options, we'll give recommendations, and following that we will conclude our presentation with questions. So really quickly, RSI and Lavish are both high-end spas that cater to individuals that are looking for a complete spa package that are also focused on affordability. So it's really important for both spa companies to offer a well-rounded experience to their guests. Now, RSI has recently purchased Lavish, so with that comes a plethora of opportunities that now face the two companies. To talk about the first company, or the first opportunity, that being consolidating the two companies, I'll turn the time over to Todd.
Thank you, Matlin. So our first operational change that we're recommending would be to consolidate RSI and Lavish. So currently RSI and Lavish are operating as two separate spas, two separate entities. So this would propose that we consolidate the two under kind of one entity and one brand. So this would kind of consolidate both strategies and have one brand identity. There'd be cost savings in administration because you'd be basically streamlining accounting, admin, marketing, all those kind of things into one. There'd be centralized decision making, so there kind of be one umbrella overlooking everything, kind of one basic management function for both spas. And it'd also be more efficient for bank financing, as the bank requires consolidated statements under ASPE. So we would already have these prepared with the consolidation, so it'd be easier to supply to the bank for financing purposes. Some of the drawbacks are basically the operational and strategic differences between the two. So there might be different employee standards or some strategic differences that now have to come together, and this might be difficult to do. There's currently bonus programs in Lavish for their employees, and RSI does not have bonus incentives. So this might be hard for Lavish's employees to, kind of adopt, as it might not be as attractive to them if we can't put in place as good of a bonus structure. There's different accounting policies, so they're currently using different methods for evaluating assets and their amortization, and also different client bases between the two. So if we're adopting one spa and one strategy, some of the clients from Lavish or RSI might not like the new policy or the new spa, and they might leave. So that's one drawback of it as well. So under the consolidated financial statements, they have to be presented in accordance with ASPE. So that means that all assets and liabilities must be valued at fair value at acquisition date. Amortization also needs to be considered for intangible assets, which include customer lists or any branding. And the current bank requirements for financing are a 1-to-1 debt-to-equity ratio, which we are on side with, and a 1-to-2 debt-to-assets ratio, which under the consolidated statements is offside at the moment. So therefore we do not recommend using the bank financing, as we would not be able to meet the standards required by the bank. So I'll now pass it off to Brandon, who is going to talk about the franchising option.
Thanks, Todd. So RSI's board, you guys, have stated that one of our priorities was to look for growth opportunities So one of the options that we looked at was actually franchising. Now, you may have heard of some successful franchises such as Subway or McDonald's, but there's also tons of ones that haven't worked out that well. So when looking at it, we took a look at the pros, and basically it was a really good way to capture market share and expand quickly and cheaply. It was a good way to get the RSI name out there in a cost-effective way. And one benefit may be some of the franchisees may have diverse knowledge and allow that to come back into the company. On the other hand, franchisees may have different values than RSI. They may not share our core values and could damage the brand, actually. The rapid expansion could overwhelm our business. We have some inexperience involved, so it may be a problem that way. One of the main strengths of RSI is our very good location. This may be a problem for franchisees finding as good of locations as well. So, and finally, screening possible franchisees is actually going to be a pretty time-consuming process, and it may overwhelm us that way as well. Let's look at the financing for a franchisee. It looks like we can break even with only 8 franchisees in the first year. And we'd only need 5 to cover the ongoing costs. So a franchise can be successful with only 1 therapist working there, so it's actually pretty easy to get one up and going. The upfront cost would be about $250,000 plus $65,000 each year after that. But there may be some additional contingent costs that we have yet to consider. And so I'll pass it off to Sheridan.
Thank you, Brandon. So now I'm going to discuss the opportunity we have to partner with Forever More Fit Limited. And this would be that we would have our massage therapy centers opened in their fitness centers. So the one good thing about Forever More Fit is that they already have their location set. So what we could do is we can expand just by operating within their existing locations. This would solve our goal of actually expanding the company. That being said, there's also a few other advantages I'd like to point out. For example, you already have access to an existing customer base. And this is a target customer base because these people are fitness oriented. So we wouldn't have to worry about finding our own market, it already exists. Another advantage is the fact that it's in a convenient location. As Brandon mentioned, location is everything for us. And having this company already available in a very fitness focused area, we would have the location problem solved. Another advantage is that we have the opportunity to have our current therapists train new therapists and basically have them retained in the company by giving them new opportunities. And lastly, if Lavish and RSI's performance is doing poorer than expected, the profit that's been experienced through having our therapy, massage therapy centers in FFL will help cushion this drawback. But there are also some pros to having a partnership with FFL. For example, there is no brand promotion. So we would not have RSI, the name, the logo in these locations with FFL. This might make it a little bit more difficult to expand if there's no brand reputation to grow. Another issue may be the fact that we might be financially dependent on FFL. If the volume of attendance is low or an FFL location decides to close down, then we lose our investment with an RSI massage therapy center in that location. Another drawback is the fact that there may be additional expenses incurred depending on what kind of agreement we decide to undertake. It could be a partnership, it could be a corporation. And as you know, there are different expenses related to such entities. And lastly, there has to be due diligence. So we're using this analysis based on the information that FFL has provided for us, but we need to vouch this information and make sure that it is as accurate as possible. Now I'm going to talk about the different financing options we have. So the projected first year profits are expected to be 3 times the amount of the initial investment of $50K. And also, which is great, but then there's also additional expenses that we haven't really taken into account, such as liability, the legal, the tax implications, and that also needs to be addressed. So that being said, I'd like to pass it on to James.
Thanks, Sheridan. Lastly, last option that we're looking at is possibly acquiring Pure Substances. It's a local company in Halifax, and one of the pros for acquiring this company is the large possibility of retail advancement. Currently, it's just a wholesale operation, and RSI takes on about 75% of its products. It also has a strong reputation and well-trained staff within the community, as well as there is the possibility to continue the involvement within the community since Pure Substances is such a large provider of jobs and funding within the community as well. Again, it also aligns with the organizational strategy of environmental friendliness, especially with the organic products. They're very low impact on the environment. Next, talk about the cons. There's a negative trend in shipping costs that's affecting the bottom line currently. It's increasing at a rate proportionately twice as much as the sales are increasing each year, which is not a great impact to have. Potentially, there's some contingent liabilities held up with some of the government funding and low interest loans that Pure Substances has been receiving, and he just needs to do a little bit more due diligence and see what comes out of this. Just because the last thing we want is to have contingent liabilities that affecting the ongoing processes of the business. And also, lastly, the valuation provided by Matthew Chung, based on the internet resources, valued the company around $8 to $9 million. Well, as per the analysis that we have provided, it's only around 5.8 million based on the average, 5.457 million. This also ranges between 4.8 to 6.1 million based off the book value and normalized capitalized cash flows method used for valuating the company. Now, due to this large valuation of the company, we would have to utilize bank financing just because we don't have enough cash on hand in order to purchase it. So with that comes some implications. So you're looking at collateral, you're looking at cross-collateral agreements as well as personal guarantees from shareholders. So no matter what, the bank's going to be getting their money from one party or another. You're also looking at restricted debt covenants, which can negatively impact the business, just depending on what future operations look like and how much borrowing is taken on in the future. We're also looking, as Sheridan has brought up before, we're also looking at the due diligence portion. We're basing our assumptions and valuations off of the information supplied by Pure Substances, so there'll need to be some further digging on our end. We're also looking at a maximum repayment period. If we do acquire Pure Substances from the bank financing of about 5 years, so which is a significant draw on cash flow. And lastly, I'd like to pass off to Matt to conclude.
Good. Thank you, James. So in deciding what recommendations we were going to pursue further, we came up with a table that listed our decision criteria. So essentially along the top of the table you can see in order of priority whether or not the strategic option met our vision and mission, congruency measurements, whether it improves brand recognition, meets the growth target, meets the constraints and targets associated with, let's say, our big covenants, and then whether or not we had the resources enough to be able to actually pursue the option. So essentially, as you can see there, it's a nice illustrative graph that outlines our decision criteria, and from that we came up with the recommendations that first off we consolidate the operations of RSI and Lavish. But this is an important point. We want to keep the brands separate. We feel that there is more of a growth opportunity if we do so with that. We want to partner with FFL. That's going to give us the ability to enter a market that we haven't been in currently with the fitness side of the business. And then we do recommend that we franchise, but that you as the board of directors should postpone the franchising for a year, just so that we can do a little bit more research as to the best way that we can roll out the franchising option. And then ultimately, we do not want to purchase Pure Substances. Ultimately, we just don't have the ability to finance such a acquisition at this time. So really quickly, just to review an implementation plan, in the first year in 2016-2017, we want to consolidate the operations. We've already purchased Lavish, so that's just going to realize cost savings on the operations side of the business. Also, we want to partner with FFL. And then as we're doing this, we can be researching how to best move forward with the franchise operation. In 2017, I just wanted to note on the slide, as you can see, that the shareholders will have to withhold their withdrawal of funds until 2017, just so that we can be on side with bank covenants. And then going forward from that, we'll just continue to monitor the recommendations and make sure that they're meeting the growth and the growth targets and still align with our mission and vision. So essentially, consolidate, pursue a partnership with Forever Fit Limited, and franchise out the RSI brand. Those are our recommendations. We'll turn it over to you now for any questions. Thank you for listening to us with this presentation.